we're heading right into this time of, we're heading towards the solstice and the grand conjunction. I'm not going to do astrology because that's not what we're here for, but that is a really powerful time to get really clear about what your vision is. So I just love the timing of Eden's class and that she's going to lead us through this journey. I invite you to come so fully present. I invite you to give yourself so generously this moment that you've chosen. So if you're like me and you can be a little guilty of multitasking, I invite you to go all the way here, to breathe deeply into that impulse that brought you to click the many buttons that brought you here, and to give so generously to yourself, to allow yourself to consider things you haven't considered, to allow new practices to be invited in, and to come into a wonderful state of wonder. So Eden, thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us. And I'm going to pass over the reins.
Hello, everyone. I already, as I was talking with Leah this morning, I just wanted to state to you my bow to your courage, to the choice that you're making to show up for a conversation about money in a time of year when money is up, whether it's because of COVID and unemployment and the pandemic and all those things, or the holidays or the end of the year. There's just so many reasons that this could be a difficult conversation to have. So I really honor you just for showing up. And I second what Leah said, get your journal out, get your snacks, get your water, get your colored pencils. We're going to be using our bodies. We're going to be using our hands. We're going to be moving and grooving as we get through this. So please turn on your inner learner, the one who said yes to this, and welcome them fully here. And in order to do that, something we always do in Shakti Rising classes is give our bodies an opportunities to catch up with our mind. So we're just going to do a little somatic practice and a little meditation to get started. And I welcome you to do this seated or standing, whatever is comfortable for you. So just bring your hands together in front of your heart. Rub them together nice and hard. Really allow yourself to feel the heat growing between your palms. Waking up the chi in your body. We'll do this for just another breath or two. Maybe going just beyond what feels totally comfortable. And then right as you're about to release, place your hand somewhere on your body that needs your attention right now. Just go with your gut, go with your instinct, wherever that might be. And just breathe in the warmth of your heart, the vitality of your body, the strength of your attention. Just thank yourself for showing up. And you can either leave your hands here or relax them as we do a few moments of meditation, seated or standing again, whatever is comfortable for you. So just settle in. Make any of those adjustments that your body is like, hey, if you just moved this much, it'd make me way more comfortable. Go ahead and do that. And let your eyes close. And if closing your eyes feels like too much for right now, just let your gaze go soft and wide. And begin to bring your focus to your breath. Just noticing the inhale and exhale without trying to change anything. On your next inhale, I invite you to bring your awareness to the experience of breathing and follow your breath inside. As though you could draw all of your external senses inward, turning your hearing inside, turning on your inner sight, becoming more and more aware of your internal experience in this moment. Just being there as a neutral observer. Maybe there are images or colors that you're aware of. Maybe you experience these things as physical sensation. Maybe you feel a certain emotion arising. Maybe you find yourself very distracted. It's all just information. Invitation to come back inside yourself for a few more breaths. And now I invite you to tune into the beating of your heart, the physical experience of blood moving through your body. This rhythm that is the rhythm of your life. And if it feels good to you to place your fingertips right over your heart so you can feel that rhythm in your fingers, go ahead and do that. Bringing all of your awareness to this rhythm that is generated by the wisdom of your body without any effort. Let yourself sink just a little deeper into this rhythm. Let it carry you to your center, to a place of rest. As you arrive deeper inside of yourself, allow the energy of enoughness to infuse your entire body. Where you are, who you are, what you are, right now in this very moment is enough. What you have, what you've done or not done, how you've lived up to this very moment is enough. Allow yourself to rest here for a moment in a state of enoughness. How does enoughness feel in your body? What sensations are you aware of? How does enoughness feel in your heart? Are there emotions arising that you're aware of? And how does enoughness feel in your mind? What is the quality of your thoughts? Just notice these things. And also notice if this feels like a familiar state of being or one that you haven't experienced in a while. And now, from this state of enoughness, I invite you to imagine that everything that you need is right at your fingertips. Everything is right there for you. And let whatever this is become vivid in your mind. Maybe there are things that you can see or just sense. Take note of what's there. Taking a few more breaths here. Everything that you need at your fingertips. Enoughness in your center. And gently allow those images to begin to fade and return your awareness to your physical body. And slowly over the next few breaths, as you're ready, allow your eyes to open. But what I invite you to do is bring that experience to your journal. In particular, I invite you to make notes for your future self about how enoughness felt in your body, your heart, and your mind, and what you sensed around you when you imagined having everything that you need. So we'll take a few minutes for you to make notes about your experience. Taking about one more minute. All right, and beginning to wrap up, just for now, these observations. I want to invite us to each share, and since we're a fairly large group, it's not going to work for each of us to speak, but I would love to see in the chat from each person one element of what enoughness is like for you today. Whether it's a physical sensation, an emotion, a question, just go ahead and put it in the chat for now. We will have opportunities to talk to each other, fear not. Boundarylessness, calm and soothed, truth relaxed, gratitude, relief, release, compassion, elongated, oh, that's beautiful, contentment, emptiness, peace, satiated, fullness, joy. I saw angry and sad as well, not reacting. Confidence, a returning of power. That's powerful. Waterfall, willingness to reside in the present moment, anew, unconcerned about past or future. So we have inoculated our group field, our group energetic field with this state of being. And the aching to be free. Thank you. And before we dive more into enoughness and the power of it, I really want you all to hold this inquiry with me over the course of our next hour or so of why, beyond our own personal transformation, beyond our own personal work and growth and healing, why is this work of working with resource and working with money and working with enoughness potentially disruptive to bigger systems, systems that exploit and oppress, systems like our current economy? I just want that to kind of be a background question we're all carrying. So enoughness, that was only a few minutes, right? And we already created quite a significant state change, if you will. And I really want to invite us to practice returning to that state of being as we continue our conversation today. So one of the reasons I had you take notes is for you to have a cue. So that if you notice, even in the course of today, like consider today a practice round. And if you notice yourself clenching, if you notice yourself checking out, if you notice yourself feeling really uncomfortable in any number of ways, remember that you have inside of yourself this state of being, always accessible, always available. And we're going to work with some tools today that can help us shift back into a state of enoughness. Great. So enoughness is the ground from which we want to begin all of our investigations and explorations around money and resource. And why might that be? I'd love to see in the chat some ideas about that before I share my own perspective on it. Why might it be important that we start from a state of enoughness before we have these conversations about money and about resource and about wealth and about our stories around these things? It opens our mind to receive infant enoughness, be in a realm of possibility and not lack. Exactly. So gratitude, you all already know this. It's so wonderful because our culture teaches you can never have enough. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Robin, for saying those words, because that's really the meat of it. Because while enoughness lives inside of us, it's our natural state of being, we're all living inside of a culture that has really systematically and successfully taught us that's not true, right? Taught us that, in fact, we don't have enough, we might never, we aren't enough, and we should strive for the course of our entire lives in order to try to be successful by someone else's standards. That is the story that is constantly being put into our minds and into our bodies and into our interactions, and particularly into our transactions. So every time we interact with money, typically that story is infused into it. So if we're willing and able to begin from a place of enoughness, then already we're disrupting that story. Already we're asking the question of, does it have to be that way? I'm not convinced. I think enoughness could be the way that we live. So from my perspective and how we teach inside of Shakti, and if you look at indigenous cultures and healthy cultures all over the world, they also hold this to be true, that this state of enoughness in which you may have experienced a sense of generosity, some of us may have felt that, that is actually the starting point for mutual aid. That's the starting point for interdependent communities. That's the starting point for healthy interactions and exchanges where we share what we have instead of hoarding, or instead of assuming that that person doesn't have because of their own failure, but rather I have, and therefore I'm responsible for sharing, and I know I will be provided for because everyone else has, and they're also responsible for sharing what they have. So if we can come back again and again to the state of enoughness, then we're increasing the likelihood of culture shift from this place of scarcity, of lack, of not having enough, to one of generosity and one in which we're all provided for. So that another story that I want to pierce in the course of our conversation today is that we have to have more in order for our communities to be provided for. And if you look at the examples across the world of which communities are kind of taken care of at a collective level, it's not because they have a ton of money. It's not because they have a ton more resources than anyone else. It's because they value everyone's well-being rather than valuing profit. So it's a values shift. It's not a resource shift. It's not that we don't have enough. It's just that we forgot one of our basic kindergarten rules, which is to share what you've got. Just want to give a shout out to Breeze Williams, my kindergarten teacher, for imbuing that in me at a very young age. She was amazing. So from here, we're going to do a quick drawing activity. And Leah let me know that you all are very familiar with this sort of thing. So I'm not going to do my preamble of you don't have to be an artist. This doesn't have to be perfect. This is just for you. But we're going to do a drawing activity. So grab your pencils, your colored pens, your crayons, whatever you've got. Whatever feels fun, because that's the other thing. One way to disrupt old stories about money in particular is to introduce elements that are fun and playful to us, right? So if you see a color that attracts you, go for that. If you see kind of paper that attracts you, go for that. And now what you're going to do once you've got your supplies or materials, or maybe you're going to scrawl it on the wall, doesn't matter. Draw your current relationship with money. Don't think about it, just let your hand go. And if it's helpful for you, you can use your non-dominant hand. So you're going to have 5 minutes. And really allow this to be something that is led through your body, through your gut. And you can pause yourself and check, like, where is this coming from inside of me? Yeah. Thank you, Susie. There is enough. It's a matter of redistribution, right? So draw your current relationship with money. Just go for it. I dare you. Nobody else needs to see it. You'll have an opportunity to share with a couple people if you want to, but you don't have to. You've got 4 minutes. Got a couple more minutes. And when you feel complete, so this isn't a rush, this is just for those of you who are moving quickly through this. When you feel complete, put the date and give it a title. All right, beginning to wrap up. Again, put the date and a title. Let your drawing tell you what its name is another way to think about that. And then I want you to just sit with that picture for a moment. Really be with it. Notice what happens in your body when you observe what you've just created. And go ahead and make some notes in your journal about what's happening internally for you in your body as you look at that picture. Okay. So I can imagine there's a range of experience in our virtual room right now. And one of the things that can occur for many of us when we begin to look directly at our relationship with money, just as a snapshot, even in this moment, is that judgment can come up, shame, fear, anger, disappointment, joy, celebration. I mean, the whole spectrum of emotion can arise when we begin to look at our relationship with money. So I want to introduce you to a simple tool, a somatic tool that we use a lot and we're in this work around money that can support us to come back into ourselves, come back to a grounded and relaxed nervous system state so that we can have a meaningful exchange about what's here. And if there's a trigger that's present for you, or if there's a challenge that's present for you, this can help you to stay with it to the degree that's right for you. So this tool, I'm going to take my glasses off for this. This tool is called Triple Burner Smoothie, and it comes from one of the great teachers of energy psychology, Donna Eden. I will put her website in the chat for you at the end if you're interested in this kind of work. But what you'll do is bring the second and third finger of both hands together, bring it to the right around where your third eye is, the center of your eyebrows, and apply some gentle pressure here. You're not pushing your head back, but so that you can feel it. And then from here, you're going to draw a line over the eyebrows to the temples, tracing what's called the triple warmer or the triple burner energy meridian. Make some circles around the temples. Then from here, you're going to trace above and then behind your ears, coming down the sides of the neck, and letting your hands rest on the top of your shoulders, even just giving yourself a little shoulder rub here And then just letting your arms hang from your shoulders for a moment. You might notice you naturally take a deep breath there. Then you're going to bring your hands and cross them in front of your heart. Again, applying some good pressure that you can really feel your hands here, feel yourself being held. We're going to do that 2 more times. So bringing your fingertips to the center of the eyebrows, pressing gently, tracing above the eyebrows to the temples, circles around the temples. Again, you might notice your breathing drops as you do this, tracing above and behind the ears, coming down the sides of the neck. A little shoulder massage. And then crossing the hands over the heart. So I'm going to do it one more time without speaking. You can move at your own pace. And just notice, you can close your eyes if you want to, just notice what's happening internally for you as you do this. And as always, you can keep your hands here if that's more comfortable, or you can release them. So if this tool was supportive to you to shift into a place where you feel like you can have a conversation or you can be with that money picture that you just created, make a note to yourself. Again, it's called the triple burner smoothie. And from here, you're going to get an opportunity to share with 2 other people. And there's no need for you to share the background of your drawing, just the picture itself and what it's reflecting to you right now, today. So you have complete permission to just be with it. And that's not the same thing as accepting it or being defeated, just being with it. So that's then your material to work with, right? Then you get to own that. So, and as always, I invite you to only share what feels right to you. There's no pressure here for you to reveal deep things and push your sense of your comfort zone. There's an invitation here to be witnessed and to have your drawing and your experience be witnessed, but only share what's right for you. And you'll have about 10 minutes total as a group. So I recommend 2 to 3 minutes per person. And just hold each other, it doesn't need to be a conversation. It can just be each person speaking. So any questions about that? You can chat questions if you've got them before we go into groups. The invitation is really simply just to share your drawing and what it shows to you about your relationship with money. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so let's go ahead and do the groups, Leah.
You know what? We just had someone come in and out, so I need to recreate the groups now.
Okay, great. Well, in the interim, I invite you to return to your body and just be with what's arising for you in this discovery and in this observation. What's coming through in your drawing, the title. Just really witness yourself. Honor yourself wherever you happen to be in your relationship with money right now.
Okay, I have everyone in my groups again.
Wonderful.
We'll give
Leah is the tech queen. Thank you, Leah.
We won't be keeping time for you this time. We're going to allow you just to trust your own flow, but I will give you that 60-second notice. And if you're not familiar, when that 60-second notice comes up, there's going to be a button that comes over your screen, and don't click on it. You still have that whole minute to still be with your group. So we'll see you in a little bit.
How much time do we have total?
10 minutes.
Thanks.
So welcome back, everyone. Thank you for choosing to share that part of yourselves with each other. The reality is that money intersects with everything, right? It intersects with relationship, with family, with our sense of contribution, with work. And often, if we're aware of kind of the larger economy and some of the impacts of our current economy being exploitation and oppression and extraction, then we make these decisions where we want to opt out of that, right? We don't want to participate in that because we don't want that to be the truth. We don't want that to be the kind of world we live in. We know something better is possible. And so we say, yeah, I'm just not going to participate. And the beauty of that is that we get some distance, right? We get to see things from a different perspective. But the conundrum of that is that that means that the people who are participating are just going to keep things going on the way that they were, right? So we are not actively agents inside of that system questioning it and potentially making change. So it's this comes back to each of our responsibility and role, and that's up to each of us. But Alex, something that you brought really reminded me of that kind of, I think you called it like a mind fuckery of like wanting to do it differently, but that not being seen as legitimate. So we're kind of in this underground trying to figure it out, can't really have overt conversations about an alternative economy because we live inside of this really big, massive one that's got a lot of infrastructure behind it and a lot of momentum behind it. So we need to, from my perspective, the invitation is for us to just start surfacing these conversations, to start being visible in our decision making and in our question asking. Right. So I want to invite us all to just take a step back, kind of, you can do it physically or just energetically and recognize the bigness of what we're working with here. Like, just take a deep breath. And we have our personal economy. This is what we have the most power over. What we choose to do with our resources, what we choose to contribute to the world, and how we choose to receive what the world is giving to us. And then there's what we call the collective economy, which operates outside of us for the most part. But fortunately or unfortunately, our personal economy is intersected with the collective. So whatever we do here does have an impact. Whatever we do on a personal level, we are role modeling for others. And when we have the courage to ask questions about whether this or that is aligned with our personal values, for example, whether this or that is really creating the kind of world that's healthy for our children or our friends' children or our animals, that has an impact. So I think we can start to get really out into like, oh my God, how do I change all of this and where do I even begin? But I want to invite us to come right back here, right back to this state of enoughness and to the power of what we call tiny change. So small things that we can do in our own lives that have a ripple where we are today. So just notice how you feel in your body. Take another look at your drawing. Come back into yourself. I mean, we talk about that as generosity as a tool to heal scarcity. So if we notice these things occurring, a constriction for us occurring in our relationship with money or other resources, one of the quickest interventions we can give to ourselves is an act of generosity. And we'll actually close today by writing some of those down for ourselves. But we each have such unique experiences with, not only with money, but I will say just with giving and receiving, based on our own family history, based on our childhoods, based on what we've been taught by our communities and cultures. So I really honor what you're saying, Gia. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, Gia. And I invite us to each take that with a grain of salt for ourselves, because there's the other end of the spectrum where we give more than is healthy or right for us each to do, So I guess the invitation is really to consider, if I am part of an interdependent, healthy system, where is it right for me to give? What about receiving? What about things other than money, which is what we're going to get into next? And just how can I become more nimble? It's a question I often ask myself, rather than the channels that I'm really used to? How can I become even more nimble in my giving and receiving, even more of a contributor, even more of a receiver? Yeah, and there's a big cultural story, especially for women, around that, right? Of giving more than we have, or of the expectation of sacrifice that's not compensated. All of these things, what's often referred to as women's work. So I find it really interesting that you all found that commonality. And if you're up for it, I would invite you three, that group, to continue to work with that a little bit more. Just explore it together. I don't know if you're in touch with each other at all, but even knowing that there are people out there that are in a similar position could be supportive. If you wanted to make another drawing next week, just as you hold this inquiry of like, what is that about? What does balance look and feel like to me in that relationship? Next week, make another drawing. The following week, make another drawing. Just notice if things begin to change for you, using your tools and using the power of your own observation. So thank you. It's such a treat for me to get to hear what's going on for you all. I really appreciate your honesty and your willingness to share. And I know there's so much more that happened in those groups. And I just really trust that that's of value to you for where you are with your relationship with money now. And there's one last activity that I wanted to do with you before we begin to kind of wrap it all up and close, which is about currency. So this has come up a few times, right? So the idea that when we talk about relationship with resources, we primarily are talking about money for the most part. Like that's the default setting. But in reality, we're giving and receiving all sorts of currencies all the time. And I want to invite you to actually identify those things for yourself. So you're going to take a moment and just free write. What do you value that comes in and out of your life? Which is another word for that is a currency. That I want you to write the top 10 or the first 10 that come to you. And this will just be quick, just what comes. You don't have to overthink it. And then as you get to your 10, and again, no rush. This is just for those of you who are moving quickly through this. Just put a couple words down next to each of those that describes the quality of each of those currencies. Does it feel like it's in deficit? Does it feel abundant? Just a couple of words that come to you in terms of each currency. And then one more layer for those of you who've been describing kind of the quality of each of those currencies. The next deeper dive, which you can either do now or later in your journal, is what's your current relationship with each of those currencies? And what kind of relationship do you want to come into? So I'll give you another couple of minutes for that. Taking about 1 more minute, wherever you are is great. Okay, clearly vulnerability. So these are going to keep coming. It's so important that we identify these for ourselves. Why is it important? So this is another secret weapon that we can use in if we notice that we feel distant from that sense of enoughness or abundance, however you define that for yourself. Making a list of what you've got coming and going, or just what's present for you in the moment that you value. Oh, thanks, Fred. Awesome. That's another, it's like, you know, in Mario Brothers, when you can jump in the tube and it gets you really quickly from one place to the next. That's what this can be for you as well. Things that you feel grateful for is another way to do that. And then, like we did before, the triple burner smoothie, that's a more physical one. So depending on what works for you, these are portals to bring you back to a state of enoughness or healing. What else? I'd love to hear from a couple other people. Why does it matter that we identify these currencies, these things that we value that are not limited to money? This is the invitation with this activity, and Leah, we'll go to you next, was to expand our definition of what's valuable, of what a currency is, to not exclude money at all, in fact, but rather, because we typically begin there, we often end there as well. And so we devalue all of the other exchanges that we're engaged in as though they don't matter as much as the ones that have money involved. So the invitation really to me is that we've got more work to do on the rest of them to value these to the level that we value what we do with money. And then we can have a meaty conversation about how money fits into this and why so much of what we do in the world is not compensated with money in a way that it should be. So I'm appreciative that you're bringing that up, and these aren't intended to be separate from one another, but we're just trying to lift up the rest of the currencies to match the value that we put on money before we can have that conversation. Leah. Thank you, Jocelyn.
I really so appreciate this like emphasis on being able to see or recognize as valuable the things that we don't always recognize. And it makes me think of this time when I was in my late 30s, and all my friends at that point were getting married, and I was feeling so left out and so in the story of I'm not loved, I'm not lovable, I don't have love. And my father traveled across the country and was visiting me, and I dragged him to a party, and he got to see me in my community. And at the end of the night, he said, Leah, you don't have one husband, you have 5 husbands. And he just in that one moment showed me what I had, which I wasn't fully receiving, which was that I had all these really rich relationships with all of these men in my life who all served. And I started changing my story I started boasting about, I've got my car husband, I've got my dance husband, I've got my house husband, I've got, and blah, blah. And I started making my married friends jealous. I swear to God, it went from being that poor person that didn't have any love to something else. And it was such a radical transformation in being able to see those things that I wasn't valuing. And it let me experience my life in a really different way.
Thank you so much. The power of the story we tell, right? Of not only what we have, but what how we talk about it, right? Which is, I know, the work that you all are doing in this community, how we talk about what's true on every level. So before we begin to do our circling out, I just want to revisit with you these tools that we've worked with today, so you have them to take home. You've got your drawing, you've got the practice of listing your currencies and checking in on your relationship with those. I really invite you to do that on a regular basis. And then you've got this the tool that we did, the triple burner smoothie, and you've got what you journaled about your experience of the state of enoughness. So in a follow-up email that you'll probably get in the next day or two, you'll have a recording of meditation on enoughness. So you'll have another invitation back into that, as well as a handout that'll walk you through some more of this, how to grow your financial resilience and how to continue to do this work. So I would love for us to close this fantastic exploration together with sharing it, what you're taking with you. So I know you talk about it as anchoring in this community sometimes. So what's one thing that you're really with as we close? And you can just put it in the chat for now. An open heart. Worthiness. Shortcuts to shift out of the feeling of lack. Great. Enough is enough. Asking different questions, Artemis. Yes. Thank you. My true resources. Yeah. What else? Flow. The value shift has to happen. Share rather than compare. Yeah. Hidden beliefs of scarcity and abundance. Balance between the king of money and the queen of enoughness. Ooh, I love that, Ellie. Thank you. Reminders of the power of sisterhood support in all its forms. Ancestors are resources. My resources are my gifts. Yes. Thank you, Andrea. Or Andrea, I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Oof, that's powerful. So my last invitation for you before I hand it back to Leah is to make a quick note in your journal of an act of generosity that you can do today. The real, if you want to really take on a dare, it'll be 3. 1 toward yourself, 1 toward another person, and 1 toward life or the universe, however you relate to that. So 3 tiny acts of generosity that you can do today. And as you're finishing those up, I just want to truly express my gratitude to you for this time together and for you showing up to do this work so that we all know we're not alone in asking these questions and taking this giant culture and system change work on together. May what we did here be of benefit to you and your family and your community and all of life. I hand it back to you, Leah.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And one of the things that we do at the end of a class is we all just give a little like sunshine to the person, to Eden. And so if we could just give her, and I hope you get to put us on gallery view so you could see all the love coming your way, and appreciation and gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll get to give her a proper hoot and holler in just a moment. I just wanted to say thank you all for being here today. And Eden and I got to really get into some really interesting conversations around money as we decided towards our approach. It was so delicious. It was such a delicious process to be like, oh, let's talk about money. Let's talk about value. Let's talk about who are we as women making offerings? How are we going to do this? And we thought a lot about this. And for those of you who are familiar, part of this class is that I did we teach these classes, and each class has its own speaker series. And so we just did a class on power and purpose. And so when Eden and I were talking about her coming and doing a guest class, I was like, oh, could you come be part of this series? And so part of you who are here, or the people who are getting your last class, is part of that series. And then what I started realizing is that, after doing these classes, that there was something really rich and profound about getting to open these guest teachers to the whole community. Because why do you have to just be in a class? Like maybe you've taken your storytelling class and you got what you needed and you're on to the next thing, but still there's this opportunity for enrichment. And that just gets me excited. That's kind of my generosity spirit of like, I love feeding and nourishing this great community that continues to stay in connection. And so sometimes, as you know, we put a fee on those because I pay these teachers. And Eden and I we're just playing. I was like, are you going to be a guest teacher? Is it going to be for free? Blah 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 blah. And we went around the block, and what we landed on was like, why don't we create the space for donation? Why don't we make a space for this? This is an offering, as you all saw. This was a free class, and I also said at the bottom there'd be an opportunity to make a donation if you feel called to. And so I want to invite you into this moment. We've had this beautiful ride with, and I'm going to ask you to stay in the presence of the class, of the energy that Eden just brought us through this deep wondering, of this relationship between giving and receiving. And some of you might say, today was my day to receive. I just received a free class. And some of you might feel the well being full and might be saying, oh, I want to be in another form. We're all in a form of that reciprocal nature, giving and receiving. And so I really invite you to feel into your body sense right now. And how do you want to end your day with this space? And if there's a number in terms of if you are feeling called to give and to donate, just trusting your intuition of like, what's the number? Just really come into, not the literal think of like what you're supposed to do or anything, but just like what truly feels in alignment with you on this day. And I'm going to give you a little link. And if you want to play this game with us, because we're playing, right? We're just playing, and that's one of the things I just love about this space. How do we play with our role, our place in the generative wheel of giving and receiving? So I am giving you this link, and I invite you to play with it in a way that brings you joy and in a way that is a part of your experience of this class. So this is sort of like the last assignment of being true to yourself in terms of where you are in this space today. So inconvenient. And then, because I really did want to, part of my joy is getting to nourish our community, we want to tell you about a couple of other things that are happening. So Eden is teaching an amazing class just on this very topic, and she's going to go deep into it. And so she's going to take a few moments. So for those of you who got your class and you feel complete, we wish you adieu. For those of you who are curious and want to learn a little bit more about how you can go a little bit deeper with Eden and Shakti Rising, she's going to take a few moments and she's going to share about that with you. And then after she's done with that, I'm going to tell you about the next class that's coming down the pike in January for sacred storytelling. And I think this is about a 5-minute trajectory that we're on together. So just thank you again for bringing your depth and your vulnerability and your honesty and your full self to this. This was a really, really rich time. And I'm so grateful to get to share this time with all of you.
As am I. And as Leah said, so we hold these classes inside of Shakti Rising. Coming up in February, we have a 4-week class called Cultivating Currencies, Mapping Your Feminine Economy. And this is a class for women particularly. There's the link. Thanks, Leah. And it's a pay what you can class. Again, it's for 4 weeks. Over the course of February, we really start to look at where our personal economy and the collective economy intersect and what are the leverage points where we can make real change. So that's on the horizon coming up in winter. And then in spring, we have an 8-week class. It's not even open to the public yet. So if you're interested, you'll get an email tomorrow to sign up on our list, and you'll be able to stay tuned for all the offerings we've got going on for the rest of the year. Again, thank you so much.
If anyone has any questions, why don't you pop them up right now for me or Eden? And if we don't see questions, we will give a big old hoot and holler for Eden with massive gratitude. Great.